we should all be. We will own nothing and be happy. That's what the World Economic Forum is all about. We will own nothing and be happy. Oh, I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, every single asset is owned by someone, and whoever owns that asset controls the future of that asset. Deposit insurance was a scheme they cooked up in the 30s to get people to feel comfortable going back into the banking system. And they call it a scheme. Those are not my words. They admit this is a scheme. And so when they tested it, and first they just took everything, the world outcried and said, oh, but what about deposit insurance? What about deposit insurance? And so they backed up and they honored the deposit insurance, even though those people had no access to their funds that they held inside of the system. But also, you know, the other thing that I want to point out to you about that period of time is that, and we could share that, Edgar, would you make sure that you send Rudy the graph on the savers in Cyprus? Because Cyprus had just a little bit before that joined the European Union, and you can see the French and German banks and the bigger banks that piled into the Cypriot debt because of the interest rates. But you can also see fair warning about the bail-in and how they got themselves out of that circumstance, but left savers in those circumstances, because savers are what are called sticky. And, you know, since you brought that up, let's take that up today. One more point that I want to bring up, and then let's take what you're talking about to today and what's happening in the financial system today. But the Bank for International Settlements came out. Anybody can Google this, or we can give you that link as well. Make it easy. I like to make it easy for people, where they showed this graphic on what it would look like bailing in with and without deposit insurance. Because who's going to make that whole? They're just going to go ahead and print a whole bunch more money to do it. The purchasing power of the consumer dollar, according to the Federal Reserve, the loss of purchasing power is really, really speeding up. Of course it is. You can't create money out of thin air. And even though it's inflating those targets, the stock market, the bond market, the real estate market, it still has an impact on your purchasing power. And so it's garbage to say that, you know, there's no inflation and that it's under control. The thing that people don't really understand, it's the relationship between deflation and inflation. And the reality is they really are the same side of the coin, or the different sides of the same coin. Because the Federal Reserve, you know, okay, Thomas Jefferson said, and I hope I don't butcher this, but Thomas Jefferson said, if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their money, first by inflation, then by deflation, the corporations and banks that grow up around them will deprive the people of all of their property until their children wake up homeless in the continent that they conquered.
Yep.
And is that not where we are right now? You will own nothing.
Where we are.
And you will be happy, and I have chills because we were warned. We were warned, and we did not take heed. And we need to take heed now, because the system that they have planned for us, they will control every single aspect of your life. They will tax you like crazy, and they will attack your principal. And if you are not as independent as possible. This makes having physical gold, physical silver in any form. I don't care what form it is. I mean, obviously I have lots of coins too, but in any form, gold and silver are monetary at their base. So if you have Aunt Bessie's sterling flatware, guess what? That's 92.5% pure. Any talent that you have, anything physical that you have, that is all barterable. We have to be as independent and self-sufficient inside of a broader community, because we don't need the majority to know what's going on. We just need a very vocal minority, and we need to spread. You're looking at it 100% the right way. That's why I always go back to what you want to watch is the purchasing power, right? And you know, they juggle things. You know, inflation. Oh, well, people aren't going to buy steaks when steaks get too expensive, so they'll buy hot dogs. So hedonics changes things out. You know, it's a whole lot worse, but you're looking at it exactly the right way. Unless you are traveling, or, you know, it makes it's part of what the currency wars are about. Let's devalue our currency over here so it makes our exports look cheaper over here. But what really, really impacts us on a day-to-day basis is how much that dollar will buy you.
Right.
And that's, you know, and there's less than 3 cents out of the original dollar's worth of purchasing power. Officially, we know it's worse than that.
It's more than that.
It's going to zero, because it always does. 100% of the time. That's exactly what it does. That's why real money, gold and silver, and it isn't just because it's gold and silver. And I don't know why. I never hear anybody talk about this. But physical gold and silver are used across the entire global economy, every single area. So it has the broadest base of functionality and the broadest base of buyer. While silver is used more broadly in manufacturing, gold is actually also used in manufacturing.
Yes.
The difference between the two is that silver gets used up, but gold is indestructible. And that is one of the big reasons why it's the primary currency metal versus silver being the secondary currency metal.
Right.
Because it's the one that meets all of the criteria to be a monetary metal. Okay. And further than that, they have never been able to duplicate the traits that gold and silver have in the lab, or they would, right?
Right.
So both gold and silver possess traits that are not duplicatable. And so they always have value.